Welcome to Cash Talk, the podcast where we delve into the depths of finance, business, and life itself. I'm your host, John Cachia, a multi-award-winning wealth advisor with a passion for empowering ambitious Australians to confidently achieve financial freedom. Hey everyone, before we get started, this is a quick reminder that everything in this podcast is of a general nature and nothing has been tailored to your personal circumstances. So please seek personal financial advice before acting on this information. And welcome back to Cash Talk. After a little bit of a sabbatical due to some painful tooth issue that I had some oral surgery where there was an infection for everyone to know, and it just caused me some grief. I'm not going to kind of go through the long story, but we're back on Cash Talk, and today I am joined by the lovely Leah. Leah, how are you?
Good. It's nice to be here again.
Yeah, that's it. Well, I really enjoyed our last conversation, and today I'm really looking forward to getting back into it, obviously, not just because I've missed it for a few weeks, but also what we're about to talk about today, because there is a lot of misconceptions out there in regards to why to use a financial advisor. Is it the time to use a financial advisor? Is a financial advisor right for me? And I know we covered a little bit in the last session that we had, but I really wanted to go further into this because these questions or these thoughts or these statements continue to flow around. And, if it's Leah with her, mum's groups, or me at the local soccer club or whatever it's going to be, these questions are still coming in for a lot of people here. So, Leah, I know you've kind of put together some common ones, but did you want to dive into maybe the first one in regards to what we hear?
Yes. One that I hear very often, especially amongst the mums groups, is, I don't have money for that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's very interesting. There's a lot of financial advisors still today that are out there that'll have a certain amount of money that you need before you come to work with them. But there's also a big part and at Thriving Wealth where that number is not important for us. Actually, we get more a drive out of getting someone from their position now to where they need to be. So it's really not about what number of money or how much money you've got. It's about your mindset and how can I improve. Yeah? So a lot of people that do come to see us they have limited assets at when they first start. And so it's very, very common that you'll have a family with maybe two people. They've obviously got a little bit in superannuation, but no real kind of strategy behind that. They might have a few $1,000s in maybe some ETFs or some shares because they've dabbled. They've got a mortgage and, they've got $20,000, $30,000 in their bank account. And as you can see from that person, we're not talking about a wealthy family. We're talking about standard middle Australia. And what's very important is that for us, it's around the mindset. Okay, so do these people have the willingness to want to grow? And I'm not talking about just growing financially speaking, I'm growing as an individual, because we want to work with people who want to kind of grow into who they need to become. The second part of that is obviously, do they have the resources? And what I mean by that is around, yes, there is a level that you need, but it's mainly from a cash flow perspective. So what I usually try to say to people is that if you can kind of have about, say, $2,000 a month of savings, so that might mean, can we put extra money into your debt? Can we put money towards investments out of that $2,000 a month? Can we put more money into superannuation? Can we utilize that for other strategies? That's probably a good marker for you to think about seeing a financial advisor, because that's where you start to get options. Do I put money into debt? Do I put money into a kid's education fund? All of these different options. And so that question really kind of bugs me, Leah, because it's actually the people without the money who probably get the most amount of value from an advisor, don't you believe?
Definitely. Especially learning to retrain their mindset. Like they don't have that background themselves, or they might not be getting it from family. So having a external financial planner outside of your normal group, that will help.
And I like to kind of think about things. It's like, imagine you're really overweight, okay? Using a personal trainer, you're obviously going to see some massive results. But the person who's got that kind of 8% body fat, working with a personal trainer, yes, it's going to be valuable, but the difference they're looking for at that stage is that extra 1%. And that's how you've kind of got to see it. Like, you're starting out really early in your fitness journey or your financial journey. You're going to get a lot of value from that relationship where, obviously, if you do have money and you've got a lot of moving parts, yes, we're obviously going to work with these people as well if they fit, our values and stuff like that. But it's really, we're looking for that extra 1% with them. Yeah. So I know you've prepared a few more, Leah. So let's move on to the next one.
Kind of the next two kind of flow into each other. So one is, I'm scared to see a financial planner because I don't want to give up my lifestyle. And then I don't want someone telling me how to spend my money.
Yeah, that's actually one that I got yesterday. And I get this that often as well too. It's this apprehension that I'm going to go see an advisor and my life's going to be taken away from me. And that's the last thing we want. And when you think about strict diets, any kind of dietitian, any nutritionist, any kind of medical person or personal trainer will tell you, if I put you on a strict diet, you're not going to stick to that.
Yeah.
And I've just got off a 2-week kind of fluid diet because of my tooth. Yeah, I think it was maybe even 3 weeks. It's hard.
Yeah,
it's extremely hard.
Very hard.
I'm not going to kind of stick with that for 6 months, let alone 6 years.
Yeah. If it's not enjoyable, you're not going to stay on it.
Correct. And so, we are looking for working with people not to create drastic changes that are going to be so impactful that they're going to stop doing what they're doing. We actually are looking for long-term incremental changes, okay? And what that means is around coming to see us and having a look at their finances and saying, okay, well, is the money that they've got pointing them in the direction that's going to make them the most fulfilled? And any money that's not pointing towards making them more fulfilled and financially free, we need to redirect that money. And so, like the lady I was speaking to yesterday, we went through what we do, how we go about things, and she was super excited. She was like ready to start. But she said, but. And the but was, but I don't want to sacrifice on my life. I'm 50 years old. I've worked so hard. We've just grown up teenage kids. And I don't want to spend the rest of my life feeling like I have to go without.
Yeah.
And we don't want that. And so I had to kind of walk through her and tell her, like, that's not what it's going to be about. And this is very, very common. Like, I've even heard this just being like talking to someone on the sidelines at a soccer match, and she was just like, "Oh, I'll come to you when you're ready, but I need to go and spend all this money first on things before I come. I need to splurge before I come see you." It's like getting in those last chocolates before you have.
Yes.
And we don't want that to happen. No. Like I just had a client this morning, message on a comment, and he was talking about, before I saw you, I was working hard, I had all this money, but it was going nowhere, and I was miserable. Now I feel amazing, and I've been able to provide my daughter a European holiday, which he always wanted to do. He just bought his mother a car, which he comes from a very, very humble place, and being able to provide for his loved ones was very important to him. And see, everyone's kind of different, but more importantly, he's so fulfilled. And Leah, I did get emotional. I grabbed his comment and I actually showed my young boys, because they see obviously dad working, but they don't see sometimes the impact. And it was around like, look at what we're doing. And then after he commented, you see all of these clients kind of messaging on that comment. For this lady yesterday, I want her to live a fulfilled life. I want her to truly be proud of the life that she's got. We've only got one crack at it. So our whole purpose is not about sacrificing. It's about creating our clients to be financially free and living fulfilled lives.
Yeah.
Bit emotional just thinking about
it. So the next one, it comes under being able to afford a financial planner. But I think a lot of people don't understand that there are other ways than just your personal funds to pay for financial planning.
Yeah. Listen, at the end of the day, regardless of what you do, if it be, me designing my new home, if it me working with someone for a service, I've got to get some kind of re-leveling done at my house. We are all aware that we've got to pay for a service. Yeah. And doesn't mean that we want to pay skyrocket, huge amounts, but we also don't want to go too cheap. So I just want to kind of put that caveat. So we always need to pay. You don't want to be screwed over, and we don't want to kind of be people cutting corners. But when it comes to financial advice, first and foremost, I think people are scared of the cost without understanding the value.
Yes.
Okay. And I had this conversation with someone about 2 weeks ago, and we actually went through the process, and I could tell that the cost was like the barrier for moving forward. And I said to him, well, you've come in with all of these problems. And he said that he wants to wait 12 months, which is a common one. It's a nice way to say we're not going to proceed, we're going to push forward, and we'll start in 12 months. And then we know that that's not going to be usually the case. But it was around articulating to this person that their problems aren't going to go away. Yeah. They're actually just going to get worse. And by showing that value and allowing me to show the value, the cost barrier was removed.
Yeah.
And I will say this to everyone, even if it's my wife saying, hey, listen, John, we've got to spend $10,000 on something. $10,000, I don't want to spend $10,000 on something, but what's the value I'm getting in return?
Yeah.
And the value doesn't necessarily mean a financial return on investment. I pay 10 grand, I get 30 grand back. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking at the total value of what it's doing for me in regards to what am I looking for? Am I looking for peace of mind? If I'm looking for security, yeah? What am I actually looking for from the exchange of that money across? So, but then when it comes to financial planning, yes, it is not for everyone, okay? I said before that $2,000 a month is kind of the thing like a good number to think about from your cash flow. But a big portion of that is, not a big portion, but some of that is to obviously pay for financial advice as well too. If you can't save $2,000 a month and we can't allocate to things like extra debt repayments or investing or whatever, yeah, you're really not being able to water these seeds enough to make fruitful trees. Yeah. Second bit around that is around, so most people we see are in that bucket, they can do that. Second thing is around tax deductibility. So a few bodies, the accounting bodies, the major accounting bodies, the major financial advice bodies came out and they kind of used the determinations from the ATO to kind of clarify deductibility for financial advice fees, because accountants were like, no, that's not deductible. Financial planners were like, we're scared to say it's deductible. Then the public don't even know if it's deductible. And so I actually recently wrote an article which is about to be launched. So I'm not going to kind of go into the real deeps of it, but for Money Magazine in regards to that tax deductibility of fees. And keeping it very general, any fees that in relation to you paying for a professional service like financial advice to help you to generate more income, so there's a nexus between that, or tax advisory, the way I structure my investments, the way that I maybe want to put contributions into super. Contribution advice is a tax advisory advice. The way that I structure my investments, is it being a family trust? Is it in Leah's name? Is it in her husband's name? Are we setting up an investment? Like all of that's tax advisory. So that gives us the ability to claim a portion of these fees as a tax deduction.
Yeah.
Which is a major win, okay? And this has been around for ages. It's just been that the ATO's come out and given guidance, and then the two major bodies have come to clarify things a little bit more.
Yeah.
The next one is in regards to superannuation funding. Now, superannuation funding of advice fees can only be done if the advice that you're giving as an advisor is in relation to the superannuation advice and one step further of that particular product. So, for example, let's say I want to deduct $100 a month out of your superannuation, Leah, that let's say just happens to be with Australian Super. If I'm giving you advice for superannuation that's with CBUS, I can't deduct your advice fees out of CBUS to pay for the advice that I'm giving you in Australian Super. It needs to be apportioned, okay? But there is a portion that can be funded to help do that. So once we go through all of those steps, like tax deductibility first, what gets funded out of superannuation, the superannuation fund can kind of claim those as an expense in themselves. But once we kind of go through that, it's much more affordable than people think. And affordable in light of what I said before around the value you're getting. Yeah, because I don't want to pay $100 if I'm not getting value. Like it depends on what that exchange is.
It's very interesting.
It is.
It's something people don't know. The general public don't know that kind of thing. So
correct.
It's good to hear it from a professional. All right, another one. Seems to be a bit of a misconception that financial planners are only for retirees. So I'm too young. I'm too young to see a financial advisor. They're not going to help me.
Yeah.
I'm not retiring anytime soon.
Yeah, there's a big cohort of advisors that look after people that are maybe minimum, 55 and over, because they've got this big nest egg that they can kind of manage their money. That's not what we do. And, our average age of clients is 41, to put it in perspective. So that means that, half of our clients are between the ages of, say, 25 to 40, and then the other are the rest. And, more and more clients that we're coming through the doors are in those 30s and 40s because they need advice. They're going through a very complex time in their life in regards to moving parts, kids' educations, upgrading homes, so on and so forth. So first and foremost, I don't think anyone's too young. Okay. I'll put a caveat on that, probably 18 plus. But there even is some scenarios where younger people who maybe inherit money and maybe deceased parents and they need an estate or they need very unique, but I would say majority of people are 18 plus. But I think it's all around like how serious you want to take your finances.
Yeah.
You know, I started my journey when I was 14 and 9 months in financial advice. I put some really, really strong foundations into regards to my own finances. Obviously, then replicated that and evolved that over time for our clients. And, you know, there's people that have been with me since their early 20s and are now living amazing lives in their 30s.
Yeah.
And so the earlier you start, in my belief, Leah, the better. Do you have the financial resource? Like I said, use that kind of roughly $2,000 a month figure. You know, you could be 18 years old and be bringing in an extra surplus of $10,000 a month. Age is just a number.
Yeah.
The other one as well, too, on the back of this, Leah, which I want to touch is also I get we're too late to the game.
Yes. That's the other thing.
So, John, I see that you work with younger people and, you know, I'm 50 years old or I'm 55 years old or I'm 60 years old and I've missed the boat.
Yeah.
You know, I've had people that are 63 that want to retire at 65 or want to retire the next year and we work with them because it just goes into there's different strategies that we apply at different stages. Now, don't get me wrong. Most of the people, 50, 55, 60, so on, they will always say when they go through the process, John, I wish I saw you guys 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, for the younger ones that are hearing that, think about what they're saying.
Yeah.
All right. Because they know all of the mistakes that they could have avoided, if they got it right from the start.
Exactly.
But the people that are in that scenario, it's just about optimizing what we've got left, and really sorting out their finances to be in a position and maximize the time that we've got left. And so I don't think it's ever too late to see a financial advisor. I've got clients in their 80s, absolutely lovely people, you know, in their 80s, and you know, we'll be working with them. We'll be working with their next generations as well too. And then it's just, as you can see, it's just a different conversation. You know, we're talking about, you know, they're closer to the end than they are to the start, and what's the legacy they want to leave in that next generation. And so, you know, we have many clients. I had a client earlier this week where they've now brought their daughter on board.
Yes.
And we're now bringing that transition between the parents to the kids. So
yeah, I feel we do have a lot more children joining the ranks, which is nice.
Yeah, and I think all these kind of 30-year-olds that we're working with at the moment that have these, you know, 8, 10, 5, and these early even teenagers of the clients in their 40s, there's this massive group that's coming through. And this is where the financial literacy and the education in what we do is so important, because all of these kids are learning their behaviors from our clients. And so, you know, that benefit to your children, I probably can't even put a number around it, because I know that all of the wealthy clients that I really work with, I'm talking about like 50 million plus, 40 million plus, 30 million plus, all over the years, have always been teach my kids.
Yeah.
Teach my kids, teach my kids, teach my kids. So, yeah, never too early and never too late. It's more about other contributing factors, about willingness to want to change, want to do things right, and being essentially coachable to be a better version of you, and also with your money as well.
So age is nothing but a number.
Correct.
That's it. All right, last one. I think another misconception of what a financial advisor actually does. Financial advisors just deal with super and insurance.
Love this one.
I think that's the old man classic financial advisor.
Yeah, it is. And like, it's interesting because there's certain laws that govern us that say that we have to kind of take into consideration, you know, all aspects of a client scenario. And that's obviously a very general sense, but there's more kind of caveats to that. But like at Thriving Wealth, I can talk about this. It's very hard for me to just look at someone's specific scenario for be superannuation or insurances, because there's so many impacts that can kind of intertwine with that. And I'm going to use superannuation, for example. Okay. So let's say I want to give superannuation advice to someone, and they're ultimately coming to me to say, John, I want to build a huge retirement nest egg out of my superannuation. Cool. All right. Well, first and foremost, I need to understand their cash flow position.
Yeah. What do we have to do that?
Yeah. So okay, well, how much contributions can I put in? Okay, cool. So as soon as I go and say, all right, well, we've got to look at their cash flow, most people then have debt. I've got a mortgage. So if I'm using that cash flow to then allocate contributions to superannuation, that's now taking away from their debt position. So now I have to look at their debt scenario, because I then ask the follow-up question and say, okay, well, how long do you want to pay off this debt? I would imagine it's as soon as possible. Yes, that's also the case. Okay, so now I'm doing debt management, focusing on debt reduction.
Yep.
Cool. All right, the person say 40. Oh yeah, and by the way, I don't want to retire when I'm 60. I want to retire when I'm 55. Well, you're not going to have access to super by then, so we better build a war chest and we better
Yep.
build investments that can enable you to retire early. So now I'm doing investment planning. So it is very, very, very difficult, first and foremost, as an advisor to do what we call scoped advice. Okay. Second of all, it is not what we do. Superannuation, just do superannuation advice or just do insurance advice is ultimately saying, find me a product for my super and find me a product for my insurances.
Yeah.
Now, that is not what we do because product is the final piece of the whole puzzle.
Yeah.
And I was on stage this week where there was another advisor who had differing views to me. Yeah. And I was talking about, like, first and foremost, we need to start with what you want to achieve from life. I'm just going to let that sink in. Like, what do you want to achieve from life? Because money is simply a vehicle to enable you to achieve your life. Okay. And so we start with the dream. We turn the dream into goals. Okay. Actionable goals that we can track, we can measure. And then we build a plan to enable those goals to happen. And we use money as a vehicle to enable that to happen. So it goes dreams, goals, plan.
So you're like, you're reverse engineering
Correct.
the plan.
And then the last piece, once you've gone through all of these kind of steps, is the vehicle.
Yeah.
You know, I'm building a house at the moment, Leah. Yeah. The person's not coming to me and saying, these are the tiles of your house. As soon as I say, they don't even know how many bathrooms am I having. You know what I mean?
What's the space? How big? Well, how many do we need?
Correct. Where people are coming from a view of like, what tiles do I have? And it sounds ludicrous, obviously, me saying this, but it is a very, very common way of thinking. I have superannuation, review it for me.
Yeah.
Tell me, am I in the right product? Let me tell you, the difference between, say, Australian Super and Australian Retirement Trust is not going to change your life. Like, we are literally, they compete against each other. They know what their fees are. Like, you know, if you have Goodyear tyres or if you have Michelin, like, unless you're full-on racing, like, it's not going to have that much of a difference. Even if you are racing, it's not going to have that much of a difference. So we need to really think about a good financial advisor tries to not just maximize your wealth, but maximize your life.
Yes.
And if you want to maximize your life and maximize your wealth, you can't go in with, look at my super, look at my insurances. And if someone is doing that and you want the maximization of life and wealth, you probably need to see someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great questions. All great statements. Leah, I think that, you know, a lot of people that are listening will resonate to either these to you or hearing them as well. So if you're loving this podcast, make sure you share and send this to your friends. Make sure you like and subscribe on all major video and podcast platforms as well. It's great to be back. Thanks, Leah, and thank you, everyone. Cheers.
Bye.